Good morning, and thank you very much for having me, and thank you to Stu and Jackson and the team for organising, as always, a fantastic conference. And thanks to Lockie for kicking off what I believe will be a great copper theme, South Australian copper theme at that, with this conference. Despite the shared great looks, he's not actually my brother, but despite being in copper. Now I'm going to talk to you about another South Australian copper project, one which we expect to be following hot on the heels with production as we advance pretty rapidly through the work that we've been building on over the last 3 years. Now, I have a bit of a theory which is born of some experience working in this industry for a long time and also studying mineral economics, which is the projects that do very well are not necessarily the biggest and the flashiest, and I think Tim McCormack mentioned that earlier as well. They're the ones that are ready, they're the ones that are nimble, they're the ones that can capitalise on changes in the commodity markets. Now, it's been a tough couple of years in copper, in truth, although we're still seeing prices well above $8,000 a tonne, just under $4 a pound US, despite some of the most challenging economic situations we've seen in a very long time. And I think what this tells us is that the world is moving inexorably towards decarbonisation. And as Lachlan said, there's only one way to move power. You can store it in many ways, you can produce it in many ways, but there's only one way to move it. And I think that's an extremely important theme that you'll see through copper. Discoveries are getting more challenging, they're getting rarer, they're getting deeper, grades are getting lower. And what you see here with Coda is a project that has open pits well above 1, nearly 2% copper, a fantastic underground project with now 2 well-established peer-reviewed mine plans. It's got a strong register. The chairman is our second largest shareholder, strong board, and I'm fortunate to say that this is a group of people that making decisions with is extremely rewarding. It's a very pleasant environment to be working in, which is incredibly important when things get challenging. Now, over the next 10 minutes or so, I'll talk to you about Coda, mainly about what the future plans are, but also some of our assets and how we've been improving and optimizing these assets over the last year, because an enormous amount of work has been done since I stood here a year ago. Now, the location of the project is just about 6 hours drive north of Adelaide in South Australia, one of the world's premier jurisdictions to be developing a new mine. We're surrounded on all sides by BHP. You've got Carrapateena next door, Oak Dam West just to the north, and then Olympic Dam just a little bit further north. What you don't see here, also the very famous names exploring in the region. IGO, FMG, Teck, First Quantum all have significant exploration tenure in the area. Coda has some of, if not the best, exploration tenure in South Australia. It's not just nearology, with over 1.1 million tonnes of JORC-defined copper in the sedimentary resources alone. We have, by a country mile, the largest accumulation of sedimentary copper in South Australia. Our scoping study plans 25,000 tonnes of copper cathode and 1.3 thousand tonnes per annum of battery-grade cobalt sulfate being produced from this project. The ESG credentials are exceptional, and this is, again, one of the most supportive mining jurisdictions in the world with simple approvals processes. We have multiple intercepts in the deeps above 3% copper within a 2.5 kilometre envelope, and I'll talk to that in some detail in a moment. And then massive expansion potential for the sedimentary copper. As I said, this is by far and away the largest accumulation of sedimentary copper cobalt in South Australia, if not in Australia. It is the 11th largest primary copper project in Australia, according to a recent, or a couple of years ago now, Oz Minerals presentation. The study we published in March 2023, the original study. Over the last 9 months, we've been optimizing this. To put this in context, we spent about 9 months and roughly $200,000 in consulting fees. We increased the value of the project by 29%, $165 million. The project is now showing a pre-tax NPV 8 of $735 million from pre-production capex of just $306 million. With peak net debt still just over $500 million Australian dollars, this remains a very nimble project, far, far from the realms of the complex and challenging mega projects out there. The AIC has dropped from $2.19 a pound to $1.60, putting us right in the middle of that cash curve. Now I'm going to fly you through the project. Again, you can see here the fantastic location in South Australia on the Gawler Craton. Zooming in on the tenure, as I said, it's not about neurology. 2 open pits, the first of which, MG14, sitting just a few meters below free-dig dune sand. Look at those grades, 1.42% primary copper in the production target. Again, this is an open pit just below dune sand, 1.9% nearly in the copper equivalent. You can see here, this is the BHP's, formerly Oz Minerals, Carrapateena Haul Road. This runs between our 2 main open pit deposits. We have a contractual right to use this road. Windabout, the second deposit. This is currently optimized to 4 open pits, 6 million tons. Again, look at those grades. Open pit, over 1% primary copper, 1.71% copper equivalent. These are the 2 open pits. This is what we listed with. This is all we had. 70% of the project and 2 open pits. We now have 100% of the project and our flagship deposit, Emmy Bluff. We didn't find it, but we did define it, and we have done the mining studies and processing studies, which now demonstrate what this is. You can see here 4.5 square kilometers, roughly the size of Kings Park in Perth. It's a huge area. The main work that we've done over the last 9 months is to focus on improving the mining of this project. It's relatively narrow. It's sitting here above what you can see is perfectly suited ground for developing a mine. And the big breakthrough here is this continuous mining machine. We spent 9 months, about $200,000. We sent material off to independent labs in Switzerland, and we worked with Joy Global, which is owned by Komatsu, out of their Denver office in Colorado, and Mining Plus as well. So a lot of independent work has gone into this. What does this mean? Hugely improved throughput, better productivity, increasing the mining rate from 2.5 to 3 million tons. You can see here the resource, 40 million tons at 1.9% copper equivalent. Production target, 29 million tons, 1.8% copper equivalent. That's still nearly 1.2% primary copper. The material is extremely soft. It has medium abrasivity and is considered highly amenable to this new form of mining, which is very commonly used all across the world in similar rock types. You can see here as we develop through the mine plan, you've got the early development drives into production. By the time you get to years 4 and 6, the high-grade panels getting filled in, and then really taking that sweet spot across the southeastern up to the northern part of the boundary on the eastern flank. This is important because some of the highest grades in the deposit sit on that eastern side, and that is again where we're looking at additional exploration as well. The slightly lower grade northwestern corner getting filled in towards the end of the mine plan, and it's that material we're looking to push back a little bit as we continually increase and optimize this deposit. Now, I get this comment a lot. It's quite thin. It's laterally very extensive, but we know there's an enormous amount of copper here. These narrow vein mines are extremely common globally. You can see here sort of comparable mines, comparable thicknesses at much greater depths all over the world. All of these assumptions are in the back of the ASX release. But what this really tells us is this is very common. Unusual in Australia, common globally. We now have 2 peer-reviewed, highly well-understood mine plans for developing Emmy Bluff. And the continuous miner, again, giving us huge wins as it's able to take some of the higher grade material that's just around that 3.4 meter mark. But we're not done. Say we spent $200,000 to increase the value of the project by 29%. We have a lot left in the tank. We're continuing to optimize the flow sheet, and we're continuing to optimize the mining, and there's plenty left. Exploration is the other exciting part of this. More tons when you've got a deposit this size is not necessarily required, but it never hurts, especially when you're looking down that eastern flank where the higher grades occur. What you're going to see here is some of these seismic lines, a lot of pretty pictures, I grant you. What this really means is we've thrown the kitchen sink at this geophysically to understand what's going on in the deposit. You can see here the lines cutting through the main deposit. We shot these a couple of years ago. 2D seismic is one of the gold standard geophysical techniques. What this really has given us is a much better understanding of where the Tapley Shale, this is the host rock for the copper cobalt, lives. We've then gone beyond that. We've shot ANT and MT, two further gold standard geophysical techniques, the ANT, a real-time satellite-connected method for identifying the Tapley. You can see the resource outline, you can see these additional pods which have been identified within the ANT, and now, as we released this morning, this MT and seismic work. It's all very well, it's all very pretty. The geologists get very excited, and if you'd like to talk in depth, Matt Weber, our chief geologist, will be at the booth after this speech. What this really means to me and what is important is you're looking for smoke. You're looking to try and find as many ways to validate your exploration model as possible, and we now have 3 gold standard geophysical techniques that are screaming an eastern extension to this material. Again, along that curve, along that higher grade area on the eastern flank. What does this mean? Well, we're going to go chase it. We have the very real potential of finding significantly more copper in an already huge copper deposit. That will only add to the already spectacular economics of this project. Now, moving on from one form of exploration, the copper cobalt, to another, the IOCG. Many of you will remember our share price shooting up pretty materially a couple of years ago when we hit over 50 meters of sulfides beneath Emmy Bluff. Now, interestingly, these two deposits may sit on top of each other. A journalist described this as an elephant sitting on top of a hippo, or it may have been the other way around. What you need to know is that beneath this, there is a major IOCG system. That IOCG system has certainly been an interesting ride. But what we know, you can see these sort of Starship Enterprise-looking lodes in the metasediments. What you're getting there is significant grades, over 3.5% copper in many of those intercepts, most of them well above 1.5% and 2%. We've put 21 holes into this, all but 3 of these mineralized. If you study the history of IOCG discovery, and bear in mind this is the 5th major IOCG on the Gawler Craton, the other 4 are in the hands of BHP, it takes a little bit of time. It takes an awful lot of work, but the rewards are there. This is a very exciting blue sky opportunity that continues to offer us massive upside. The primary focus, don't get me wrong, is on the sedimentary, but this is an incredible asset to have and something that we continue to try to understand better. What we've done since we stood here last year is really improve our understanding of the exploration model. You can see here now these conduits, these bringing the copper up from the basement, and then the gravity overlaid on that. What does this mean? Again, lots of pretty pictures, but I'll simplify this. We have 2.4 kilometers of area that looks an awful lot like we've already hit major copper system. What we know is that we've got 140 to 150 meters of copper intercepts over generally 2 to 3 lodes. What we're looking for is those Starship Enterprise-looking lodes to come together into one thick hole. 2.5 kilometers up to the northern boundary of the tenure, and a very exciting exploration opportunity there. News flow to the future. First, we're looking to advance the studies. We've demonstrated our ability to continually improve already strong economics. The next stages will be driving optimization, improving the flow sheet, improving the recoveries. We continue to focus on a funding pathway, and that is advancing very well. We're looking to expand this, continue that exploration, and build on the work that we've done to build an exploration model that we can rely on and that will give us better precision in targeting. And to transform. We continue to look at opportunities, likely to be with a partner, to drill out that IOCG. It remains a hugely exciting blue sky opportunity and one worthy of pursuit. With that, thank you very much for your time.